Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are discussing Hotel Dusk, Room 215, the adventure game for the Nintendo DS, the dual screen. And joining me, as always, to discuss this game is Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I had a thought when I was playing this DS game that I wish video game consoles had the same sort of improvement trajectory as Razors, that they just kept adding more and more screens. So we had like 5 screens, 6 screens.
Instead, all we get is a moisturizing strip every new system.
Just wiping my DS on my face. Fun fact for this week comes from Science Magazine, so you know it's legit. So this one is about birds, specifically ducks. So ducks do basically a thing dolphins do, where they set half of their brain to sleep at a time, which is cool, but not that cool, right? Like I said, lame dolphins can do it. But the cooler part is that ducks will basically change which side they put to sleep based on where they're sleeping. So scientists put a whole bunch of ducks in a row, and they found that ducks in the middle would close both eyes when they slept. Ducks on either end would keep that eye open while they slept. So the leftmost duck would have its left eye open, rightmost duck would have its right eye open. And if you move the ducks around, they would change which eyes they kept open while they slept. Pretty smart ducks.
Wow. So these ducks, they know what their formation is, and they adjust themselves to maintain formation.
Yeah, so they can keep an eye on predators. Really, though, those lazy, freeloading middle ducks got to get their shit together.
Yep. Much like, was it last week or last podcast when we discussed the army ants, like the freeloading upper ants on the raft, not drowning to death?
Just murdering their brethren so they can, cruise down the river. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like the freeloading middle penguins in the penguin packs.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know why birds are such jerks. Real tragedy to common situation.
It's really, I feel it's more geometry's fault that there's a safe zone in the middle. If they just made shapes that were less advantageous, every one of them would have to suffer. And we are also joined, as usual, by M. Palladino. Hello, M.
Hello.
Master of Games.
Now I can be introduced every time as Master of Games. Ha 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 ha. I gotta get back into DMing so I can be a Dungeon Master, Game Master.
A Dungeon Master.
Yeah, exactly.
Burger Meisterburger.
Is that a Bob's Burger thing?
No, that's...
no, it's an old Christmas special. Is that Year Without a Christmas?
No, I don't think that's Year Without a Santa Claus. I think that's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It's the one with young Kris Kringle.
Yeah, it's claymation. It's one of those ones.
Yep. Well, before we get into Hotel Dusk, we have our normal housekeeping. You can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/deeplistens. If you go there, support the show, you will get access to our Discord, where you could be on the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This week on the Discord report, it sounds like our sister podcast, Off the Deep End, has finally finished their Draken, Yiz 3, and Revengers of Vengeance. Is that the 3 things they did?
And Xenosaga is up. They have finally,
Yes.
the third Xenosaga podcast has finally been published.
They've been busy. So check that out. It sounds like it was a nightmare. We have some commentary on the way we pronounce certain game systems. What would you call the thing that came before the GameCube? The SNES.
You mean the N64?
Oh yeah, there is that.
It's okay.
All right, before that one.
The
I'd probably
SNES.
say SNES. Are people saying SNES? Is that a thing?
There is some discrepancy. Some call it the SNES.
The hell
I
that.
believe that
choice.
is ZP's pronunciation.
Go to hell. That's terrible.
He also sounds it out as one word, SNES, which is also wrong.
SNES is fine, but SNES is not fine.
SNES, snake. Also, game FAQs, they're claiming it's pronounced game facts.
Yeah.
No, that's
Game
also
facts.
bad. No, because
It's
that sounds like game facts, like facts
Yeah.
about games.
I mean, it's
It's
both.
not necessarily facts, it's FAQs.
Look, it's got facts in its facts.
Can we return to a debate me and Gino have had in the past? I don't even know if he remembers this, but it haunts me to this day. So, I call them biopics, but Gino calls them biopics, like an ignoramus.
They are biographical pictures. Biopics.
No, they're biopics.
Biopic. It sounds like optic. It sounds like eyes. No.
Well, I mean...
Or biopics, like
Bi-
two opics.
Biopics.
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 Ridiculous.
Biopics would make sense because it's a biographical film.
Yeah.
A film that dramatizes the life of a non-fictional person.
But I don't think it's a portmanteau. Like, they're not smashing two words together. I think it's just a new word that they invented.
It is a portmanteau. It's a portmanteau of biological picture.
Is it really?
Biographical. Probably.
Biographical pictures? No,
Yeah, I think it's a portmanteau.
I still don't support your decision, but
I'm sorry.
I can at least understand.
It's an abbreviation for biographical motion picture. I think you're in the wrong here, Pete. Sorry.
It's a portmanteau.
I refuse to accept this conclusion.
Well, it's fine. You know, a lot of people on losing sides of wars don't give up.
It's really a mark of good character. This
Oh, yeah.
dedication.
Yep, it's just you and the nope, not gonna make a reference.
They're all going to
Nope.
be bad.
They're all gonna be bad. Well, we also have we have a new channel on the
Yes,
Discord.
yeah, that was what I was gonna say.
Okay, tell Pete about it.
I added a channel because every so often there will be a mostly by ZP telling us to tell you about a fun fact that he found. So I added a fun facts channel where everyone can post their fun facts.
Cool.
So that
I can
we
just
can-
stop then.
We can present them to you in case you run out of content. The selection that we have this time around, please inform Pete that science has discovered that pigs can breathe through their anuses. The title says, scientists say mammals can breathe through their butts in emergencies.
What I think breathing through my butt would be the emergency.
If you're in that position, something has already gone terribly wrong.
So yeah, if your head is buried under sand or something, lift your butt up.
Yeah.
Right.
Butterflies are too fragile to engage in combat as part of mating, but males do compete for mates by dancing, submitted by friend of the show, Jeff Rude.
I feel like that's everyone who dances for mates is too fragile to compete in combat.
That's true. And they also found a very round bull shark, which,
Now I have to Google very round bull shark.
yeah, there are pictures. It's not as round as I would hope. It's just kind of chunky.
It's pretty round. Florida divers encounter colossal, abnormally round bull shark. And, yeah, they're apparently also Twitch's newest hot tub streamers are adorable otters. These are the things that are starting to show up in the Discord you can be a part of. If you go to patreon.com/deeplistens. We also actually have some comments on some of our previous podcasts. They were little comments. We got a Vagrant Story one. This comes in from Dave Whitney saying, I have the Bloodsin tattooed on my arm. This game was a big deal to me in my adolescence.
Oh, nice.
Not the only person. You've got a nobody tattoo or a heartless tattoo?
Yeah. I've got
It's
a
nobody, right?
nobody tattoo on my shoulder. All my tattoos are nerd shit. I respect that. You
Yeah,
gotta get it tattooed, like, big on your back, though, to be accurate to the game.
Yeah, otherwise the magic doesn't work.
Exactly.
And we also got a comment on the Tales from Off Peak City pod. Really enjoyed this. Great stuff. Listen while scrapping old machines, which I think is the appropriate way to get into the Tales from Off Peak City mood.
Yeah, that's a quality
That's
comment. I
interesting.
support that one.
All right. So thank you to everyone, all the activity on the Discord. We have people ramping up for the next FFTCG release. We've got some discussion of streaming. I guess it's also worth shouting out you and I, and some of the hosts of the Off the Deep End podcast, specifically Arbitrary Water, or Zombie Pie Redacted. We've all been streaming more. We've been up on it.
Yep. We're getting on that Twitch riot. We want to earn those Twitch bucks.
Exactly.
Are any of you guys part of the hot tub meta? I've been hearing about that a lot lately.
Not yet,
Okay.
but with 10 to 15 more subs, maybe.
I was in Rite Aid the other day, and I saw a little $10 plastic kiddie pool, and I stared at it for a really long time, and I was like, no, not yet.
Save it. Save it for when you need it.
See, I don't have enough physical space in my computer room to set up anything with water. It would need to be like a dunk tank.
It sounds like you need to get rid of stuff. What do you have to get rid of?
I don't know. I've got a Yogi Bow. There's a piano.
There you
keyboard.
go. Get rid of the piano.
But it'd need to be like a dunk tank. Even if I cleared out all the space, I wouldn't have enough room.
That would be fun if you could hook up a dunk tank to your Twitch chat so people can donate to try and dunk you.
Oh, that would be great. If you could set up a dunk tank and then every sub dunk you or something. Anytime you can monetize pain, really.
Yeah, exactly. Be a bad way to get water damage. But
so that's something that we're still doing. I'm doing Monster Train every week at 5 Eastern Daylight Time in the afternoon. And you're playing stuff.
I took a little break. I was doing a lot of the Eternal card game, which you could stream it. It has a system in there for it, but my card pool is really bad because I played it like 2 years ago and then I stopped. But now I'm starting to get rolling, so I'm thinking I'm going to stream that every so often.
Yeah, and Arbitrary Water and ZP are mostly streaming the Off the Deep End games that they're playing, and then some just general weird stuff here and there. So yeah, check that out if you so choose. So then it comes now to my obsession of the week. This is not an obsession. This is a cautionary tale. I'm using this time period, this ISO, to warn you.
It's an anti-obsession.
Yes. This is anger. I'm obsessed, but like in a dark way, like a character in some sort of Lovecraftian horror. You know, they read a book and now they're upset.
I'll think on it. Keep going. Maybe we'll come up with one.
So I was given a Faustian bargain. It was movie night. I had two choices of the movies we could watch. One was Cruella, the new Disney film, and the other one was Army of the Dead. And I thought, in my head, Cruella will cost me $30. Army of the Dead I'm already paying for Netflix. It is essentially, like, the marginal cost, $0 at this point. So I should not vote with my dollars for Cruella, even if it's a funny haha joke. If I give them my $30, they will think that they've done a good thing here. So I instead decided to watch Army of the Dead because I like Dave Bautista and think he is a fun actor.
He is. He does quality work in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah, he's in The Stuber. He was in that. That was a movie that exists.
Yeah, with Kumail Nanjiani.
Yep. They were in that together. So he's done good work. And I like Tig Notaro. And I don't know, do either of you know the story of how Tig Notaro got into that movie?
I don't.
No, I don't.
I do like her, though.
So she's playing a role as a pilot, like a helicopter pilot. And the whole movie setup is that it's supposed to be a heist movie with zombies in Vegas. Zombies take over Vegas via zombie shenanigans. And then a crew of highly experienced zombie hunters are going into Vegas to crack a vault in the bottom of a hotel before the city is destroyed to eliminate the zombie threat. So they have 24 hours to get in, get past the zombies, get out with the money. You know, Ocean's 11 but zombies. Come on. That's a good premise. And Tig Notaro plays the helicopter pilot who's supposed to fly them out. And the actor who originally played the role that she's playing in the film got, I think, canceled by the U.S. government via arrest, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the dude's name off the top of my head. I'm sure if one of you can look up who played the helicopter pilot, I'm sure we could fill in the blanks there. But I believe he was canceled by the criminal justice system after the film had already been recorded. So, like, he was in all the scenes, but he, did a bad. And so they re-recorded basically Tig Notaro on a green screen
Oh my gosh. Oh, Chris D'Elia.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah. So he was removed, and that, I believe, that left a vacancy where they put Tig Notaro in green screen so that all of his, scenes could be replaced digitally. So there's a lot of close-ups on Tig talking to people. A few scenes where people clearly were talking to someone else and they had to dub over so that the lip sync doesn't match the audio. But Tig's good. She's good in all the scenes she's in. It just leads to some weird experiences. But the long story short is, I watched this film. I don't think it's a good film. You probably didn't watch it. It's got all of the Zack Snyder problems that all Zack Snyder films have. The tone is all over the place here and there. Characters just decide to have conversations in the middle of action sequences as though nothing is wrong or happening. Everyone's related to each other for no fucking reason, and they just kind of talk about their pasts while they're in incredibly dangerous situations. The color palette is largely gray and brown. The action scenes are fine. Like, has Zack Snyder just settled into, like, being Michael Bay?
It seems like it. Like, can we... Quick spoiler alert.
Yes.
For anybody who wants to watch the movie. So, if you're interested, cover your ears, I guess.
Don't watch
I
it.
don't know if I care.
Somebody survives a nuclear blast by hiding in a casino vault?
Yes.
As if, like, that's a reasonable thing that could happen.
Well, I mean, my problem with it is that he hides in a casino vault, survives a nuclear blast, and then is able to leave despite the casino vault being locked.
Yeah.
So the blast was strong enough to unlock the vault, but not strong enough to vaporize him. Which is, yeah, I mean, there's plot holes all over this film. There are scenes.
I feel like I need to watch this now.
It's 2.5 hours long.
Jeez.
It's a Zack Snyder movie. It's a half hour longer than it should be. So yeah, I mean, I would say don't watch this film. Just watch another zombie movie. Watch the other Zack Snyder zombie movie. Watch Dawn of the Dead instead.
That's what I thought you had watched, which I liked that one when I saw it. It got a little gratuitous by the end of it, but I thought it was fine. I didn't know this even came out.
It's a Netflix only thing. Like, every single NBA playoff game I've watched has a long ad for this movie in it. So that is why I knew this movie was coming out. But apparently it's going to end up being the most watched film on Netflix. And I'm saying, don't make the mistake I did. Don't add to that number. It's 2.5 hours. That's too long. Don't watch it. Also, don't demand a Snyder cut. People seem to be doing that for everything now. Don't demand a director's cut of this film. All right. So with that, let's start talking about Hotel Dusk, room 215. So Em, since you picked this game, why don't you tell us, what is Hotel Dusk?
Okay, Hotel Dusk is a game from 2007 by the now defunct Cing? C-I-N-G. I don't know how to pronounce that. It is a visual novel point-and-click adventure game made for the DS. It is unique in that you hold the DS sideways in order to play it.
Like a book.
Like a book. You are playing as Kyle Hyde, who is an ex-cop who goes to the Hotel Dusk and begins to uncover a mystery. What is the mystery? Do we want to reveal the mystery right off the bat?
Yeah, so before we get into it, just a little bit of full disclosure. I was not able to acquire this game, so I'm mostly going to be asking questions here. I watched some of it, read some of the script, but I am definitely not as versed as both of you. So this initial setup, Kyle Hyde shows up at Hotel Dusk, gets a room number 215. We initially get a few different mysteries. There's a flashback that Hyde has before the game starts. He's working for some sort of door-to-door sales company.
He's a traveling salesman. So the game takes place in the late 1970s when traveling salesmen were still a thing, before Amazon came for us all.
But
Yes.
also it's weird because they do something on the side where they're procuring items. If you lose something at the Hotel Dusk, they'll send someone over there and get your weird red box and also a porn magazine that you left there.
It's a weird form of horizontal integration where they're both door-to-door salesmen and private investigators.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that the door-to-door salesmanship is a front for the private investigating more than the other way around. But you know what? Get that money both ways. I guess, if you're a mob restaurant, you also have people coming in and you're getting money from the restaurant, not just the money laundering. So yeah, I guess like there are a few mysteries set up at the very beginning. What did y'all make of kind of the initial setup and kind of the noir setting that is established from the very start?
Well, I played this game a while ago, probably when it first came out. So I sort of knew what I was getting into. It was going to be like a noir style mystery. Got all the hallmarks. There is the ex-detective. There's some money being exchanged. There's a mysterious girl. It hits every, there's the old guy who is the boss who clearly has a chip on his shoulder. And then, there's all the weird characters who are you going to meet who are staying in the hotel, such as your former pickpocket, who is now a bellhop, who knows you from New York City, even though you are nowhere near New York anymore. Who are some of the interesting characters? There's an old lady with an eye patch.
Old lady with an eye patch. There are multiple mysterious women.
Yep.
There's sketchy, sort of sketchy, and then I'll use I'll use an antiquated term or phrase. Like, this goes all the way back to the Maltese Falcon, but there's always sort of like a effeminate, fancier man, and we have that in Martin Summer. Like in the Maltese Falcon, there was a similar character. It's one of the famous noir stories of all time. That's like a weird trope that certainly hasn't aged well in noir either.
Yeah, so we get all these weirdly star-crossed people all in this hotel who seem to somehow have, it's supposed to be like the southwest of the U.S., but somehow they all have connections to this one dude from New York, and we're trying to put it together through point-and-click adventuring. Another question kind of on the topic of holding this game vertically. How was playing this game, like on a DS?
Annoying in the way like all DS games are kind of annoying though. Like I wouldn't fault it any more than any number of things the touchscreen was shoehorned into, kind of.
It's definitely like a little odd because you are moving with the touchscreen and you're moving on this map that is on the touchscreen side of things. And then in order to actually interact with stuff, you are looking to the other screen to like see what you're in front of. So if you want to interact with a person, you got to kind of direct yourself with the touchscreen and then talk to them. It's a little strange. It's hard to find a physical copy of this game, so I had to do some,
witchcraft?
Yeah, some witchcraft. It's difficult to play this on a computer.
I feel like, too, there's always been something sort of inherently silly about the DS, that, like, they've added this extra screen to this console, and it's a silliness that, like, the vertical orientation of this game only enhances. So there's this strange sort of tension between this sort of hard-boiled noir story and the inherently silly nature of the DS as a system.
Yeah, and I would imagine, like, holding this vertically, do we get any of the issues that we've had in previous DS games we've played for the podcast where you're looking on one screen, action's happening on the other screen, or vice versa, where things are just moving too fast, or does the adventure game nature at least slow it down enough that you're not getting completely missing context because of alternating between the two screens?
It's not really. Like, usually when there's a conversation, it's going to have Kyle on one side and then whoever he's talking to on the other. And so the dialogue kind of alternates between the two. Usually you're not going to be interacting with anything on one screen while, like, something else is happening on the other. It's a little bit more like action jumps between the screens. It's not two things happening at once. It's not like The World Ends With You where you have to like look between two screens constantly.
Okay. And in terms of moving around, the whole game takes place in Hotel Dusk proper, correct?
Yes, it's basically a bottle episode.
Exactly.
So we're just moving around this hotel solving puzzles. How are the puzzles?
They're fine. You help a girl with a jigsaw puzzle. There's like some standard combination lock sort of deals. Trying to remember, there's a bowling section.
Yeah, that one's fun. The puzzles themselves aren't actually like too difficult, and usually the answer is right nearby. Like at one point, really late in the game, you have to like make a plug. It's not conducting enough electricity to power the thing that's plugged into it. And so there's a book nearby that's like how to art. And it has something in there that's like, oh, if you use graphite shavings, you can enhance a power strip if you're not getting enough conductivity, which is a weird thing to put into your art book. And so you just like walk 2 feet and then the answer is right there. There are certain things like there's these stars that are stickers around the hotel, and in order to do like it's like a drink machine. You need to collect all of them. So you have like a notebook, you can take notes in that, and once you get all of those and they're spread out around the hotel, then you can sort of progress that little thing. I don't know if it's necessary to complete the game, actually. I don't know if it's like locking something behind it, but it's one of those things, like very point and click adventure game. Remember these numbers. Ooh.
It is really like if this game were invented, if this game were created in the early days of like computer point and click adventure games, it would have been 500 times more annoying. But they really found let's put the answers close by so we don't have to, realize on our own, graphite lead, which isn't really lead, increases plug conductivity, and we have to go to the library and research all that on our own in order to beat the game.
Yeah, I mean, if it was an old point and click adventure game, the pencil would be behind a desk, and then the desk would be behind a lock, and you need to unlock it using a tuba and like a hacksaw to cut the tuba down so that it could become a key to unlock the door so that you can get the pencil, and then you need to shave the pencil down to get the graphite out of it using a wood
It's funny
chuck.
you should say that, because one of the first puzzles that you do is your briefcase key breaks in the briefcase.
That one is annoying.
And you need to get a wire. You can find a paper clip, but it's not good enough. You need a thicker wire. And so what you do is you find a toolbox and get a pliers out of there, and then you use that to cut up a wire hanger, which is thicker, and that's how you get something to pick locks. So there's a little bit of that, but it's mostly put directly in front of you. I think when you open the toolbox and look at the pliers, Kyle is like, oh, I could use this to do something with my briefcase.
But also, that's at least using real-world logic. I need something to pick this lock. Oh, I need a piece of wire. That's at least not fantastical adventure game logic, like rubber chicken with a pulley in the middle.
That's true. There's no chicken pulley in this game. Thank God.
Yeah, so I can at least abide that sort of puzzle solving as long as the solutions make some sort of sense. So there are a number of different characters that are kind of staying in the hotel. Who were your favorite characters to interact with? Which storylines did you enjoy the most?
Eye Patch Lady's pretty good. They're all sort of like caricatures in their own way. Eyelatch Lady, by the way, is Helen Parker. She's an old woman. Let's just bang out some story beats. She's an old woman who's looking for her, not really estranged, but disappeared son that she left to become the most famous magician in the world, which is an interesting story in itself. But they never tell you how she loses the eye, as far as I found out, which is an annoying thing to omit. But she was pretty good.
Well, you can't just ask how a woman lost her eye. That's rude.
That'd be very rude.
I mean, one of the characters you interact with more than anyone else is Lewis, who is your former pickpocket. And he's not really a great guy. He was picking pockets for a while, but he has some of the funniest lines in the game. He's very much like the goofy guy to Kyle's straight man. He shows up everywhere. He's doing kitchen stuff. You bowl with him at one point, which is silly in itself. I don't know if there's any actual physics to that bowling game or if it's just scripted.
Yeah, I can't tell you that. There is a scene later in the game, Gino, that you'll appreciate, where Lewis, I forget his last name, it's like DeSantis or DeSantis.
Denonno.
Denonno, thank you. He walks in and he says, top of the morning to you. And Kyle goes, I thought you were Italian. And he just goes, to the bone, paisan. That's the one line I laughed the hardest at the whole game. I was like, oh, okay. I guess he is.
I mean, if he says paisan, how can anyone tell him he's not? Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. It seems like a lot of these characters are pretty interesting. And Dunning Smith, the dude who runs the hotel, seems to have an interesting relationship with Kyle. So the crime that we're investigating here, well, at least initially, you're just making sales. First, does Kyle ever make any sales? Does he ever sell anything?
No.
Damn it.
No. He does use some of his gadgets in pursuit of his detective work.
Do we know what he's trying to sell?
A handheld sewing machine
It's
and
like
adhesive
really
remover.
goofy stuff. It's like nonsense. It's a handheld sewing machine and like
Adhesive remover is one of them.
yeah, that's it.
So no, he sells shit nobody wants.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
basically an excuse to get stuff in for the puzzle mechanics.
He's not quite an Omaha Steaks or a Snap-on Tools guy.
No.
No, he's not.
Okay, and once we realize that he is basically not selling anything, he's doing investigations, what is the central reason for him to be at Hotel Dusk? What is he looking for?
So his boss, Ed, sends him to Hotel Dusk to pursue two items. He has to find, as Ed mentioned, a porno mag from December 1979. Is it even that year?
It's like not even a recent one.
And not old enough to be vintage either, just like sort of out of date. So he has to find an out of date porno mag and a tiny red box. That's his mission.
And do we get to know why he needs to find this porno mag and this tiny red box?
Tiny red box, yes. Porno mag, not really.
That's just for Ed.
He's like, yeah, if you see anything,
Honestly,
pick it
yeah.
up.
So how does Hyde's past kind of come to a head? How does it get involved in Hotel Dusk?
Okay, so we find out really early on that Hyde had a partner named Bradley, and Bradley did something, and so Hyde had to shoot him. And when he gets to the Hotel Dusk, Dunning, the guy who runs the place, he says something to the effect of, "There was a guy here who had your name."
Yep.
And he's like, "That's weird." And then Dunning goes on to describe him, and he's like, "That sounds like Bradley." So we get the sense that 6 months before the events of the game, Bradley came to the Hotel Dusk to do something related to the mystery that got him all wrapped up in New York, which is why Hyde had to shoot him. So we immediately get that. We find out really early on that Lewis is here, and he's also from Hyde's past, which is a weird circumstance, but, you know, it could happen. But then it keeps happening. There's a lot of, like...
Crime syndicate?
Yeah, there's a crime syndicate, Nile, which is, you know, never seen on screen. But
And they take a long time to explain that that's a syndicate and not just a single person.
yeah,
I
why
thought it was just some guy named Nile for the longest time.
it's Fraser's brother, Nile.
Yeah, just forging art and committing crimes. So we find out eventually, like, this hotel is somehow tied into Nile, this crime syndicate that operates out of New York and Arizona? The West? Somewhere in the West? And their primary crime is art forgery. So how does that all tie together? What is the hook here?
Oh God.
So we learn about a artist named
Osterman?
Osterzone, something starting with an O,
Osterzone.
ending with a zone, who had a painting of a angel, and this angel painting was what Hyde and his partner were looking for. Lewis was tasked with stealing it, and then he got made by Nile, and it was a whole thing, and that's why he's hiding out here. Hyde believes that the painting has been hidden somewhere in the Hotel Dusk, and he has no idea why. That's the mystery.
Just finding this painting. And where does Mila come in? She shows up at the very beginning of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seems to be important.
She has a brochure for the Hotel Dusk on her person, and that's why she ropes in some kid. I don't know if I don't think he's like the most irrelevant character to the whole thing.
Yeah, Jeff's basically just her ride.
Yeah,
And
pretty
kind
much.
of an annoying rich kid.
Yep. So she has this brochure. She cannot talk. He assumes that she wants to get to the Hotel Dusk. So he takes her over there. And for a while, she cannot talk. So we actually don't know what her deal is other than what she writes in her notebook. We find out that she is looking for her father, who is the owner of an art gallery. You might notice there's a lot of art going on here. He is Robert Evans, who we never actually see on screen. He owns a gallery in, like, Santa Monica, and he has something to do with this missing painting. And so he has gone missing. Mila was in a coma for a while, like 10 years. And so when she got out of her coma, she wanted to try and find her father, and this was the only lead she had. So she came to the Hotel Dusk to look for him. But he's not here. But maybe the painting is.
And so Hyde, as the main character, has to try to put all these disparate threads together.
Of course.
And all this progresses just by, like, solving puzzles and getting from room to room and talking to people?
Yeah, it's mostly conversation trees. So, like, you get these little icons that pop up when you're talking to somebody. If they say something that, like, Kyle hints on, like, and then you have, like, a certain amount of time to bring it back up. And then that'll sort of take them in that direction.
Okay.
That's basically the main, like, it's mainly a visual novel. You get certain, like, little icons that pop up during conversations. And then at the end of the progression, you can, like, ask a bunch of different questions, which will hopefully reveal some of the puzzles that you're trying to seek out. Sometimes it's just, like, continuing conversation.
So, one of the things that really jumps out when playing this game is the art style. It's very it's very sketchy. It looks like sketch work, specifically cutouts of drawings that animate surprisingly smoothly. I guess maybe the best way to describe it would be if you've ever seen the Take On Me music video.
Exactly what I was going to say.
From Aha.
Straight out of that.
Yeah, it looks like that, but for a whole game. What do we think of the art style, like the way that this game looks?
It's neat. Like, for the time, I don't know what was contemporary in 2007.
Kirby's Canvas Curse.
Yeah.
Good game.
Is that the benchmark?
I mean, yeah, that was the apex of art, was Kirby's Canvas Curse.
You're right. It looked really good for the time. I think it was a good way to, like, give the game a little bit more character than if it was, like, weird 3D models or, like, just static 2D things. Because there's kind of, like, a bit of motion to it, which is nice. It's neat.
And it's also just, like, a remarkably striking art style to this day. Like, nothing else has ever really tried this. So it still stands out.
I think you also, I think there would have been a tension between regular animation or just, like, full animation and the noir format. Like, I couldn't explain it to you. I think noir movies even work better in black and white than they would in color.
Yeah. I think that having kind of this limited palette, for whatever reason, sets the mood pretty well for high mystery. Mystery's told best in 20 frames a second is what I'm saying. So what do we think of, like, the actual mystery itself?
Oh gosh. There's just so many layers.
I mean, there's layers upon layers. We don't need to go through, like, the entire, there's a criminal cartel, and then they've got a forgery, and then they're making forged paintings, and then, this person got kidnapped. Like, that's not as necessarily interesting as, what do we think this works as a mystery? Do we think this works as a noir on the DS? Like, does it really resonate with you?
So, I forget. I wish I could remember who this quote was from. I'm trying to, like, look it up now, and I can't do it. But who's a famous mystery author? Whatever. We'll think
John
about
Grisham.
it. I was going to say Agatha Christie. It might be her. But the quote is basically that, like, a good mystery story should be obviously mysterious, but should be obvious in retrospect. So, like, you hear the solution, you're like, oh, of course, that's why, like, all this was going on. And I don't feel like the story earns that. Like, the final twist, there were no hints. Dunning-Smith has a deep, dark secret, and I never felt as if I was being drawn into it throughout the whole story. He just shows up and he's like, oh, this is my deep, dark secret that you know now.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense when I first played it. Everyone was kind of being drawn to tell at this time so that I could unravel this secret, because it seemed as though there was someone pulling the strings who wanted Kyle to find out what had happened.
That's really the only explanation for why all these people would be at the hotel at the same time.
Yeah, because you meet a bunch of people who, like, are loosely connected to everyone else, some more than others. Like, the father that's there, his wife worked at the gallery that Mila's father owned. And the woman who is across the hall from you, Iris, she is the sister of his wife? Yeah? I don't know. They're related somehow.
Yes,
And
Iris
so,
is her younger sister.
and so when she sees the kid's doll, there is like a moment of recognition there. And so those two are very closely connected to this. And then you've got Dunning, who I don't know how you would, like, you can snoop around his room and you can find clues to, I guess, indicate something is up, but I don't think there's any way you would know, like, this man is the famed artist from the 1800s that we are looking for, because how would you put that together?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It seems like a little Murder on the Orient Express-y. Like, everyone on this train, they are all related to each other and all have this relationship, and the only reason they're here is because a mystery novel had to be written.
It is a lot like that. Like, and then some of them, like we said, like Jeff's, he sort of just falls by the wayside. Kevin, the father, and Melissa, his daughter, their wife has disappeared, and that one sort of never gets a satisfying resolution either. There's just too many plates spinning at once, really.
Yeah, it seems like they wanted to have a few too many twists and not enough time to tell it all, or, you know, they wanted one location, and so you can't tell it in a naturalistic way.
I will say, though, on the list of crimes, I don't know if you guys have lists of favorite crimes. I do. And art forgery is my second favorite crime of
What's
all
your
time.
favorite crime? That's
Wine forgery.
Yes.
I think
That's
wine
it.
forgery is the funniest crime in the world. I love it. I wish there were more wine forgers out there.
so.
The fact that one of the Koch brothers got ripped off for millions of dollars on fake wine makes me happy every time I think of it.
Okay, so this is someone who makes a wine and then puts it in a bottle that is not what it is?
Yeah, basically they like fake very famous old expensive wines by they make fake bottles, fake labels, they'll like create fake blends and put them in old bottles, things like that.
That's amazing. And then the rich people are just so detached from wine that they're like, oh, this tastes good too. And you say it's from the 1700s? Ah, yes. Now I truly have tasted wine.
Yeah. So one of the big ones that got one of the Koch brothers was a fake case of Thomas Jefferson's wine.
Ooh.
Yeah. From like 1790. Spent a fortune on it. All fake. I love it.
I like that it's all fake, and
Thanks.
also the idea that Thomas Jefferson would be any good at making wine is also very funny.
I'm sorry. He didn't make it. He just ordered it. Like Thomas Jefferson bought this wine, and like that's enough of a connection to him to make it super famous.
Okay. See, I'm just imagining Thomas Jefferson, you know, with his knickers up to his knees, stomping grapes. Well, I mean, knowing Thomas Jefferson, he would be forcing someone else against their will to make the wine.
He would not be the one stomping the grapes.
No. So, yeah, I definitely get that. The game having a bit too many plates spinning. Pete, I know that you took some issue with the way that it concluded.
Yeah. So, okay. So you find out Dunning Smith. Okay. Like 6 steps back. So this old artist never existed. Robert Evans made him up, and Dunning Smith pretended to be the artist and painted all these paintings. Right. So then in order to get Dunning Smith to keep painting it, they kidnapped his daughter. And when the daughter was kidnapped, that sent Mila into a coma, and she woke up 10 years later. So they solve this whole thing. Mila finds out that her father, Robert Evans, was a bad dude, worked with a crime syndicate. They offer to let her stay in the hotel, and then she says, basically, no, I'm going to ride off into the sunset with Kyle Hyde. Now, I don't necessarily know how old Kyle Hyde is, but I'm going to guess late 20s. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, around there. Late 20s, early 30s.
Kyle
It's kind
Hyde.
of scruffy.
Yeah, I mean, in a noir way. He is scruffily handsome. You know, we can give him that. Mila is 19, and she's been in a coma for 10 years. So she basically has all the social experience of a 9-year-old, and she's riding off into the sunset with Kyle Hyde, a man she has met hours before? 4 hours before? Like, it doesn't feel like this is evolving into a father-daughter relationship either, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me like they're going to find Robert Evans. I didn't read too deep into the, like, questionable social stuff that could happen there.
Yeah. Fair. I might be projecting from, like, other noir stories where, like, the assumption is basically always the detective gets the dame, you know?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that's not what they were implying, but
A follow-up question too. I don't know that much about the law, but is what they're doing illegal? Like, does this
paint
constitute art
forgery?
fraud?
Yes.
They're not really forging anything. They've made up a person.
Yeah.
They'd
I don't
be
know
fraud.
if that's illegal.
It'd still be fraud. If you're misrepresenting who the artist was and their background and history, that'd still be fraud.
Okay.
Like, I actually watched a documentary a few weeks ago on an art fraud that was doing a bunch of modern art. So he did, Jackson Pollock,
Yes,
and a couple
I
of
did
the
watch
other.
that documentary. Good documentary.
Very good documentary. And so, like, the artist was doing really good work in those styles, in like the Pollock style, but the art dealer in question was representing them as Pollocks and other artists from kind of that school of art. And so even though the art was of a high quality because it was not the age that it was supposed to be and it wasn't done by the artist who it was supposed to be done by, everyone went to jail at the end of it.
I guess my question is, does it change that this person has never existed?
I mean, I think if you misrepresent their biography, yes. If you said that this was a, nom d'art or something, and this was a, an artist.
There's a book written about, like, this guy in the 1800s, he did all these cool landscapes.
There are a lot
Pretty
of steps to
illegal.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta publish a book for one, which seems like a lot of work as someone who is trying to publish a book. It seems like a lot of steps just to get, like, a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
I don't know. And wrapped up in a fucking crime syndicate nonsense.
As somebody who spent a lot of time in academia too, that book on Osterzone would have like 40 readers. Like, no one would have read it. This would not have worked.
Well, as long as it's the right 40, it works fine.
It's true. I guess if you get all like the top art critics on board, you'd be okay.
That's the plot of Velvet Buzzsaw, basically. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one too.
What
It's
is
a solid
this
one.
movie?
It's Jake Gyllenhaal and the director from Nightcrawler, and it's another like art critic movie. It's about an art critic who's kind of a dirtbag. He's working in, the art scene in, I think, LA, and they find this artwork in an apartment building where the tenant has killed himself. Now he's dead. All of his art is exquisite, and they start selling it. And it turns out the art is exquisite for a reason.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's spooky haunted.
It comes to life and murders you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was not the twist I was expecting.
That's the truth. He used his own blood in the paintings.
And all the
Gotcha.
paint.
Not a good idea.
Yeah, so there's a whole, like, who was this guy? What was his deal? What? Well, we can't tell you who this painter was. We can tell you that he was very, very forward-looking, very visionary. But then, as they find out more and more about his biography, it's like, this guy was in an insane asylum. Maybe it wasn't good that he did this art. And, it spirals from there. It's a very hammy movie. It's a fun time. It's not a very good film.
Would you recommend it over Army of the Dead?
Yes,
I
because
would.
it's a half hour or an hour shorter.
That's fair.
And I think that the scenes where the paintings do stuff is fun.
Jake Gyllenhaal is just doing so much.
Yes.
Like, he's doing it all.
A lot of manic energy from Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie. So yeah, I think that's it for Hotel Dusk. Any other things that you want to touch on?
Did you like any of the puzzles, Pete?
The bowling minigame was probably my favorite. Although, like you said, it's hard to tell if your skill is involved at all. The wire hanger thing did annoy me, especially because if you're going to a cheap motel, the hangers are probably attached to the hanger rod anyway. You wouldn't be able to get them off.
Well, that's why you needed a pliers to
Sure,
cut it
I
loose.
guess you could cut it. You're right.
Yeah. I like the part where you have to decorate a Christmas tree for a kid.
That was a very heartwarming moment in an otherwise pretty dark game.
Yep.
Nice. So with that, we turn the page on Hotel Dusk, the DS game you need to play like a book, because it's the novel of video games. And I believe that means it's now my turn to pick once again.
It is. What do you got for us, Gino?
So there's a game that we played a few years ago that got a sequel or another game from the studio, but we were not able to play it for a while because of politics.
I know what this is.
So I am picking Devotion.
Devotion. I've never heard of this.
So this is by the makers of Detention, Red Candle Games.
Oh, okay. We loved that one.
We did. It was our game of the year, I believe, 3 years ago now. Devotion came out in 2019, but was taken off of Steam and all other digital distribution platforms for the most part because the People's Republic of China threatened a lot of distributors because this game was made by a Taiwanese studio and is critical of China.
You don't say.
So it is now available on Red Candle Games' own site. They are distributing it themselves, so we can finally play it.
John Cena just got in trouble for talking about Taiwan, too. This is very timely.
I mean, it's always timely, unfortunately.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I want to play Devotion. We loved Detention, and now that it's finally available to play, I want to check it out.
Let's do it.
All right. So thank you, listeners. Once again, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Thank you, Em.
I'm first this time. I was not expecting that.
Haha.
Thank you.
Keeping you on your toes.
Yeah. I like this game if you want a little 8-hour mystery, maybe. It's not a long game. Try it out.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, this was an intriguing game, and you don't see too much Noir out of the DS. So if you can track it down, like Em said, it's worth checking out.
And thank you, listeners. Till next time. Peace.